Good morning. I am here with Vice President of Academic Affairs. Do I have that right?
It's Vice President of Academic and Administrative Affairs.
Vice President. There you go. A very good colleague and friend of mine, Mary Burke from Quincy College. And she had already at one point talked to my class about leadership. And she did I want to make sure that I'm recording here, because I have the recorder on. Just let me make sure I'm getting this. Yes, I am. Now I see it. Now the numbers came up. Okay, Mary, I'm sorry. But anyway, Mary, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about leadership and how you plan for successorship as a leader. We're coming toward the end of our course right now, and I thought your interview would be a wonderful caveat to the whole program because you are a successful leader. Tell me a little bit about your history and how you plan for successorship with your team.
Well, my personal history here at the college has been that I've been here in Plymouth with Quincy College for about 10 years. And when I began working here, it was in the capacity as a faculty member, not in administration. But I taught here for several years before I moved into a assistant dean role, I guess you would call it. Because the campus, when I came 10 years ago, was very small. We had about 400 students. We had about 8,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. Today we have over 1,100 students and we have 45,000 square feet. We're just in the middle of a huge construction project here, which is really exciting, and it's because of our growth and our increase in students in academic programs and in facilities. Mm-hmm. So it's really exciting to be here right now. But in 10 years, a lot of things have changed here on campus for the college and really for the community. Mm-hmm. I think that being able to provide access and opportunity to the Plymouth area is very important because students are place-bound, I would call them, whether they're younger students or adult learners. In Plymouth, we don't have access to transportation to allow students to go to Boston or to the other places. I mean, Massachusetts is so rich with academic institutions, but True. If you live in Plymouth, if you have a family, if you work here, you don't have access or opportunity to those places without a lot of juggling of things. And as a result, students don't
try to get them to come here.
Able to. So Plymouth, the Quincy campus, the Plymouth campus provides a huge benefit to students. And I think when I first started here, I think we were a well-kept secret. I don't know why, but we had, like I said, a small group of students, and it's just grown exponentially. And it's been so exciting to be part of that because we were small and short-staffed, I was able to be part of the administration and decision making and changes as my role changed through the years. And so
would you call that transparency? Leadership?
Yes, I would call it transparency because it was very much a group effort. We were so short-staffed, but also motivated to see good things happen here that everything was transparent. Everything was on the table.
Amazing. I remember, and I don't know if her name changed since then, but when I came in today, it was wonderful to see Stephanie. I think her name was Blackman at the time.
Yes.
And she was actually one of my best students at the Curry campus. Yes. And the thing is that she had nothing but praises for you. And when we talked about leadership, she used you as a role model, as I asked every student to come up with a little bio about someone they admired and why. And she said, and I think her response was, Mary is the most wonderful boss I ever had but it's like we're working together. We just feed off of each other. And that type of transparency is rare in leadership. So how do you use successorship? So how do you plan for it now? Where you said major constructions from 400 to 1,100 students. How do you plan? There's only so much one person can do.
Well, I'll stay here as long as they let me stay here. So
I'm sure they don't want to let you go anywhere.
I haven't really planned for successorship because I hope to be here for a very long time.
No, I mean like you moving up in maybe another role here or doing something else, or, you know, it just gets to a point where you need to have someone pick up some of the slack. So how would you get someone to clone you?
I'm not sure that's a good idea. But, I think that I don't worry about successorship here necessarily. Like I said, I hope to stay a long time. If they let me, I will. But in terms of successorship, I wouldn't worry about that here because, as Stephanie said, we, the staff here, do it together. And the beauty
So still like that.
about here
Yeah.
is that the staff all have the same mission and focus on student success, so that people all buy into what's going on because they're part of the decision making.
Okay.
And I think what Stephanie was talking about was just that. I don't have to advocate for students to be able to overcome obstacles because Stephanie and other staff help do that. You know, everybody really works together to try to make the campus the best that it can be.
It's like an orchestra.
It is. It's like if one person wasn't on board, the whole ensemble would be off in terms of its goals.
Right.
So I think that the leaders that I know that are successful are transparent. They have distributed leadership, that they allow the people who work with them to be part of decision making, because if they're not, you're not going to have success. And people don't always agree with decisions that I make, but I think if they understand why, or they have good communication about what's going on, they're more apt to support it and help it. And everybody here is absolutely works together as a team.
You strike
Absolutely.
a great point. One of the YouTube videos I had my students look at was an interview with Steve Jobs. And I guess, as we know how passionate he was. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there would be some heated arguments with his staff. And they said to him, "Did you win every argument?" And he said, "No." He said, "They didn't agree a lot with what I said." And he said, "Well, you need people like that, because I shouldn't win every argument. I should be able to bounce ideas off of it. Just because I started the company, it doesn't mean that I can do everything that needs to be done myself."
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that you just talked about. Bouncing ideas off of one another, and they may not always buy every decision.
They don't, and sometimes you have to make a decision because you have to move forward, and people have different ideas about how things should go. Even amongst our staff, different people have different ideas. So sometimes you have to make that decision to move forward in whatever the process is. But I think people are more on board if they're given the opportunity to weigh in and to be part of it. And everybody here does weigh in because their opinion is valuable.
Right.
The staff that work in the administrative area, even the academics, the faculty, they all buy into the team mentality that we're all here working for the same mission for students. And they're fantastic people.
So everyone knows the goals. Everyone knows the strategy.
Everyone knows the goals, and that what the ultimate mission is for the campus. And you get people to be excited about what they're doing.
And they're engaged.
They're engaged, yeah.
because they're buying in.
And Stephanie is a prime example because Stephanie was a student here, and she was a student at a time when, I think back.
Gosh, our class was what,
2010.
4 years ago?
Yeah.
Something like that,
And
yeah.
she was traveling a far distance. She had obstacles like many students do, including myself, of how to juggle everything.
Right.
And she did it with a lot of support here from people who wanted her to succeed. And in turn, she went on, she got her bachelor's, she went on and got her master's, and she is now here paying it forward, helping other students who were in her shoes years ago. And that is the best kind of employee we have here. And we actually do employ a lot of our graduates,
But why not?
yeah, they know how to help students.
They know the culture. So you've built a culture of transparency. And that helps people move forward. That helps people realize their own potential. And finally, I guess it helps those realize that when that as an organization, you're satisfying their needs, there's a balance. It's satisfying the needs of the organization as well.
Absolutely. In academia or any business, if you're good to your employees, they will be good to you. And that's, I try to be good to them. We have, functions we have to cover, and we have responsibilities in everybody's role.
Sure.
But if you're, just like anybody wants to be treated with respect and the reason.
Dignity.
Yeah, and if you allow for that, then in turn, they will be good employees, and that's the case here, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, when you walk in, usually and I'll just, I promised you 10 minutes and we're 12:05, so I'm almost done. But the thing is that every time I walk in here, I see smiling faces. I see them on the students. I see them on the staff. And when you greeted me, we haven't seen each other for a while. We talked about us first. How are we doing? What's going on? And then and that's very much the way they do it in Europe. And I think we've lost a lot of that. And I think that's an important part of academia, but it's an important part of leadership, as you said, in any culture. So
I think to answer your question about successorship,
yes,
I don't worry about successorship. I don't necessarily plan for it because, again, I hope to be here. But if I wasn't here, there are many people who could jump into the role, I believe, because they're part of it. And I think that
the whole's greater than the sum of its parts.
That is absolutely true here, and I feel really fortunate that I have the staff here who are motivated and willing to do things.
Yeah, and I think you've answered the question actually the way I meant it, and I want to end with that note. The way I meant it was not succeeding you particularly, but planning for successorship as far as that transparency, and you've answered that. Anyone could step into the role if they needed to, because all of us realize that we are vulnerable and that we want someone to be able to pick up the ball. And even if we had to go away for a while and then come back, they would pick up the ball and they'd be able to run. And then when you come back, it's so transparent that you just find out where you left off and keep going from there. So I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm honored to have you here today.
And thank you, likewise.